Hey guys, it's Kim from Drifter Vans, and if you're watching this video, congratulations, you are a proud owner of a Drifter Vans. During the reveal, we went through a training phase. I know it's a lot to take in, so I'm making this video to give you like a review, an overview of all the essentials that you need to start enjoying your van. Now don't worry, if you are looking for information on something you have on your van that is not on that video, please remember that there will be specific videos for each item. This is a general video that will go through all the essentials that most of the van have, but this is not a video that is specific to your van. How do you empty your grey water tank? Your grey water tank is gonna fill with the water from the shower or from the sink. The grey water tank is not as big as your fresh water tank, so it will need to be empty more often. As a rule of thumb, whenever you can empty it, empty it. You do not need to go to a specific dump station, as it is only grey water, meaning that it's gonna be water or dirty water, but it will not be anything else that requires a dump station. So pretty much every single time you get on a parking lot or where you have access to a drain, simply drive over with the van and open your grey water tank. So you can open it either with the little tab in front, right here, or if you have a regular manual opening, you will have a handle here that you can simply pull open to open and drain the grey water tank. Your grey water tank has heating pads on them. So during the winter, you can turn on the heating pads so it's gonna warm up the grey water tank. Know that they're on a thermostat, so they turn on and off automatically when the temperature becomes freezing or below. You can choose at the monitor to turn them on or off. I will show you how. Just know that when it's really cold, even though the grey water tank has a heating pad, the elbow can freeze. That's why, as a tip, most of our clients that want to save power and also make sure that the elbow doesn't freeze, pour antifreeze through the sink or the shower, and always keep like a gallon or something of antifreeze in the grey water tank to make sure it doesn't freeze, and that allows you to not have to use the grey water heating pads that are draining the battery as well. Head to your outputs, go into the DC circuits, 12 volt. The first one, that is called grey water heating pads. You can turn it on or off. Just remember that being a heating system, it can draw quite a bit of power, and it is on a thermostat, so it will only turn on when the temperature requires it. But as a rule of thumb, if it is warm enough outside, just keep it off to preserve the battery. Something really important to talk about is the tire pressure. You can forget about the tire pressure that you get inside your door, because this is giving you the PSI of your tires when the van is empty. Your van is a lot heavier, meaning that you need to put more pressure to get close to the limit of your tires. So every tire is different. Some tires are maximum 80 PSI, some tires are maximum 90 PSI. For example, these tires maximum PSI is 80, and this is of course the PSI when the tires are cold, not after you are driving. Since the maximum is 80 and this van is getting to the maximum weight of the capacity of the van, you need to get close to the maximum PSI capacity of the tires. So I usually put 78 PSI on all these tires, but it depends on your specific tires or the tires that you're using. If the maximum is 90, it is good to at least put 85 in the tire. If the maximum is 80, I usually put around 78. That will make a huge difference for the drive comfort, and you do need to check decently regularly because you tend to lose pressure in these tires quite often. Remember, if you want to change the tire pressure, either use the air compressor that you have inside your van, and if you don't have it, you can go to a gas station, but remember to get a PSI controller like that and insert it up in your tires to check your PSI. Next, we are gonna talk about how to fill your fresh water tank using the gravity fill on the outside of your van. For this, we gave you a key at the reveal, probably gave you the key on the keys of your van. The gravity fill is the one that is on the left. If you don't have this setup, it's easy, it's the only port with a key. So open it, up right here. Access a hose. We gave you a hose at the reveal. It is inside your back door. You can connect this hose to a water source. Either at the beginning or at the end, you can add the water filter that we gave you as well. That's gonna clean the water first. And you can put this gun shape adapter at the end or not. You don't have to. You can simply put the hose inside the gravity fill. It doesn't really matter. I like to use the adapter because it fits. So there is no specific fitment. It's not gonna be locking into place. You simply put it inside, open it, so open the water source, and it will hold on its own. Now that you're filling your fresh water tank, it is important to make sure that you don't overfill it, even if you do it, it's gonna overflow this way towards the outside. It's not gonna flood the inside of your garage, so it's not the end of the world. But the best way to check when the tank is actually full is to simply look at it through the garage. Here, open the access panel of the plumbing section and look at your water tank so you can see the level of the water that's filling. Whenever it's full, you can stop it. Now let's talk about the city water port, the port that's just on its side. Just to give you a quick explanation, the city water bypasses your fresh water tank, meaning that the water you're gonna feed it, is gonna bypass your fresh water tank and give you water. So you're gonna use it if you have access to water in an RV campground, for example. This one does lock automatically. To use it, you open it, you need to use this little gun-shaped adapter, and you fit it inside and you open the excess water. Now, as a general advice, if you can use the city water, it means that you have access to water. If you have access to water, if I were you, I would simply fill my water tank and use my water tank with the pump. The only reason for you to use city water would be if you were camping for multiple days or a long time and you want to stay plugged in. But you need to make sure that before leaving, you disconnect everything, because it did happen a few times. Another very important thing, which is way more important, which is the main reason of this city water port, is to winterize your van. I cannot say it enough, winterizing your van when it's freezing outside is incredibly important. So for the winterizing, we have a very specific video that walks you through all the staging of the winterizing. So please have a look at this video if where you live gets freezing, because it is very important. The last port that you have on the passenger side of your van is your outdoor outlet. So this is a GFCI outlet. It's a regular 15-20 amp outlet that you have on the outside of your van if you need to connect a cooler, or if you want to cook outside with a table, or if you need to connect something to your van directly. Now remember that to use this outlet, you will have to turn the AC power on. We'll go through that later, going through the electrical system. And it's a GFCI outlet. If it still doesn't work, remember that you do have a fuse that's built inside that you need to click on, or you can reset if it trips. So if you have a problem with this outlet, remember that you have to both check the fuse inside the outlet and make sure that the AC circuit is on at the touchscreen monitor. Now let's have a look at the port that you have access to on the driver's side. Let's start with the Starlink outside port. Most of you have a Starlink that is on a fixed mount on the roof. But let's say that you park under a tree somewhere where the antenna doesn't have access to the sky to give you internet. You can grab the antenna, grab the extra wire that we give you, connect it to the outside port. So depending on the year and the model of the van you got, you can get this Starlink adapter or the regular Starlink adapter with this port, but they work the same. You simply fit them inside the wall of your van. You connect the other side to the Starlink antenna that you removed from the roof mount, and you go put the antenna somewhere clear to give you access to the internet. The other port that you have there is the outside solar panel port. So pretty much every van we do has solar panel on its roof. But again, if you park under a tree somewhere, you're in the shade, they're not going to provide anything. A lot of clients go with the solution to have an external mobile solar panels that they store inside the garage. If you want to set it up, grab the solar panels, the mobile solar panels from your garage, come to the outside. We give you this adapter in the little tool pouch of your van during the reveal. You can connect it here. Up. Connect the other side, that is a universal connector for solar panels, and go set up your solar panels away from your van somewhere in the sun. Now that you have connected an outside solar panel using the outside port, make sure that the input circuit is on. So for that, go on your touchscreen monitor, go into input, make sure that the circuit, so you have the solar panels on your roof, but this is the input port of your outside solar panels. Make sure that this circuit is on. I currently don't have outside solar panels connected, so it's showing 0 volt and 0 watt. But if you connect outside solar panels and make sure this port is on, you will see a general input. The final port that you have on the driver's side, and it's probably one of the most important, is the shore power connection, meaning that it is the port that you use to recharge your battery if you have access to an outlet. So we are giving you a pigtail during the reveal, and that pigtail is good for either 30 amp outlets that you might have at campgrounds or 15-20 amp outlets that you have access to at your home. So the way they work, both of them have a tip that looks like this. And this is the tip that you fit inside your van, right there. The other side has either a 30 amp tip that you connect to a 30 amp outlet, or this little adapter or the pigtail, depending on what you have in your van, that connects to a regular 15-20 outlet. Now we're gonna go inside the van to see what the monitor looks like to show that the van is actually charging. But the main mistake that people do when they plug it in and realize that there is 0 input is that the outlet itself is either tripped or not working. So to make sure that the outlet works, make sure that the light right there when you plug in is lighting up green. So here, for example, the outlet is not connected, so the little light is not turning on. Now let's have a look inside to see what the van looks like when it's getting input. So now that you are inside your van, you need to check the touchscreen of the EcoFlow. That's what it looks like. On the left side here, like the center, you have the section called Input. In the Input, you can see the lower right little symbol here that means shore power. It means the little pigtail that we installed in your van. It shows that you have over 2 kilowatt of input, meaning that the batteries are charging. If you want more details, you can click on the input section directly and see that the AC charging is providing almost 2 kilowatt of charging power. Your shore power is connected. Most of you have an outdoor shower inside your van. Usually it is on the passenger side of the van. The way to use it is by grabbing the outdoor shower handle that is usually in the storage pouch that is inside the door. Make sure that it is on the off position. Fit it inside the port, inside the shelf itself. Every single time you want to use water, make sure that the water pump is on. You can control the temperature here, whether you want it colder or warmer, and then simply open the shower here. Go ahead. Remember that you have 2 settings. When you put it on the on position, you have the straight setting or the shower setting. When you want to turn it off at the handle itself. Then disconnect it. It is normal to have a little loss of water from the wall, so that's why it's always nice to have a little cloth to wipe it out, close it, and remember to turn off the water pump button. Another thing to mention is that between your two doors, you have a clothesline that you can open. Make sure to secure it there. You can either use it to get some privacy and adding a shower curtain, or use it to dry wet towel or wet clothes. Most of you have chosen the option of a garage pull-out to get easy access to everything that you store in your garage. To use it, make sure that you pull down the yellow tabs and open it. You can either open it all the way, but when you want to put it back up, remember that it's gonna block midway. You need to pull down again on everything to latch it all the way. Now let's talk about the little tool pouch that you were given during your reveal. Inside this tool pouch you will find a mini screwdrivers with all the tips that are used inside your van if you need to tighten something every once in a while. You will have the winterizing tip that goes between the little gun shape adapter that we talked about earlier and the air compressor. If you need to use it, please refer to the winterizing video, it is really important. And you also have a little pouch with different fuses. These are the different fuses that you might have to replace if something blows. If you need to replace them, please head to the distribution panel that is in the back of your van. You have here all the fuses that are labeled for what it is. If one of them doesn't show a light, it can mean that the circuit is off at the touchscreen or that the fuse went bad. The EcoFlow touchscreen monitor will tell you if a fuse went bad and needs to be changed. But if you need to change it, please grab one of the fuse inside and make sure that the number matches with the number you have. So if the one you're changing is a red number 10, please make sure that you grab a red number 10. An easy way to remove a fuse is to use the other fuse. Here you go. You use the metal part to grab the end of the fuse, slide it inside and pull out. That's an easy way to remove a fuse. When you do that, you throw out the bad one, take the good one and put it back in place where you took the first one. Here you can go at the monitor, at the touchscreen monitor, and check if it fixed the problem. Now let's talk about the awning of your van. All of the awnings that we use are electric. Some of them might have legs, some of them don't, but the opening and closing and the control of the light of the awning is gonna be above your sliding door. You have a you have a button to control the opening and closing of the awning, and a button to control the light and the dimming of the awning itself. If you want to open it, simply stay pressed on the open button of the awning. To close the awning, you simply have to press on the retract button of the awning until it's fully retracted. One thing to pay attention to is that you have to be very careful with the wind. As soon as the wind picks up, be careful and make sure that you remove the awning, you retract it completely, because it is very easy to break. A little note when it comes to your solar panels. Whether you have the walkable solar panels like this one or the regular solar panels that you cannot walk on, it is very important that you make sure they stay clean and that you clean them with water only and not with Windex or any kind of other products that's gonna leave a little layer and damage the solar panels. Whenever you see that your input becomes lower and lower with your solar panels, just go and clean them. Exactly like earlier, if you want to make sure that you get a solar input from your solar panels, go to your EcoFlow touchscreen monitor right there, look at the input section here, and you can see that the solar panels are currently giving you 300 watts. If you want to click on the input, you can specifically look at solar panels here and see that it's providing 300 watts. Another thing that is really important, let's say that one day you get a flat. the jack that they give you in your van, whether it's a Sprinter or a ProMaster or a Transit. So on a Transit, for example, the jack provided is right here under the seat. But it doesn't matter because this jack is not for the new weight of your van. It is very important you do not use it if you have a flat. If you have a flat, you need to make sure that you got a 12-ton bottle jack. It costs $40 from anywhere like Home Depot, and these jacks can actually support the new weight of the van if you need to change a tire. The swivel of the passenger and driver seat. So under the seat itself, you have a little lever. Pull or push on that lever. Make sure that the door is open. It is a lot easier to swivel with the door open. You can adjust the position of the seat, going up, going down, changing the angle of the backrest. Swivel the seat until the desired position. Next is gonna be the box screen, and the way we use the box screen on the sliding door and on the back door is a little bit different. Let me show you first the sliding door. Simply unclip the box screen, zip the back side, and you will see that the front is on simple magnets that you can open and that latch close automatically. Now the back side, it has a few more features. So let's start by opening the top part of the box screen. This top part can either be used to create blackout from the inside, or if you're parked with the door open and it's too sunny, it can also be used as a back awning, same, to protect you from the sun if you're parked with the doors open. There. Now let's open the box screen part of the box screen. This section can either be open half, meaning that you have the box screen to cover the top part where the bed is, with this section rolled up to the middle, meaning that you still have access to the garage, or rolled up all the way down. So you can still have a box screen that protects you on the top section when you're on the bed, but nobody can actually see what you have inside your garage. Now let me show you how to fold the box screen on the sliding door, because it's actually not that easy to make it look decent. So zip up the side, grab both sides, make a triangle that you fold and that you start rolling pretty tightly all the way up. Doing it this way will help you make the box screen look better when it's folded, so it doesn't drip too much on the side. When you open your van, this is an item that I've been using all the time this summer when I was living in the van. You have an outside flip down table that is great for cooking. For example, if you have an awning and it's a bit raining, you can open the awning a little bit while you cook. Simply open it, drop it down, and you have a dedicated outlet for it if you want to cook on it, for example, either on the side of the cabinet or under the cabinet, depending on the layout you have. Whenever you're done, flip it back up, make sure it's secured, and you're good to close the door. Depending on your van layout, you will have the custom-made adjustable table system that we developed at Drifter Vans, meaning that it's a flip-up countertop that you can use to extend your countertop, but using two fingers here for the finger pull, you can lower the table to use it at a comfortable height if you want to use it as a desk from the swivel passenger seat, for example. Remember that if you want to put it back, you need to not only use the same finger pull that you use to open it, but put your hand close to the wall of the side of the cabinet, put it back up until you reach the height that you want before you flip it using the two brackets right there. Another thing that is important is that when you're driving, to avoid rattle or to avoid breaking it because it's gonna keep opening and closing, and make sure that you use the safety pin to lock it into the closed position, meaning that it will not be possible to open it when you're driving. Let's talk about the latching system of your upper cabinets. Whether you choose to have a flush style or you chose with the designer to have a handle or a strap or something for decoration, this is not the way to open the upper cabinets. They have a real latch on it that is a finger pull accessible under the upper cabinet. You just open it with your two fingers and open it from there. The other style of button that you might have in your van, whether it's in your headliner shelf above the cab or the bed wall or the pull-out table, is the push and twist button. The way you open these buttons is not only by pressing on it to open it, but twisting them to open them, like that. Depending on your layout, you might not have or need this new foldable step system to get in bed that we've developed. But if you have it, the way it works is actually pretty easy. It's either on the driver or the passenger side, but the way you set it up is this way. Make sure that you open it. Make sure that it's actually closed when you're driving, otherwise it can fly around. Open it all the way, latch it back, take the top section right here, put it in the bottom section and open it. And here you have a very sturdy step to get in and out of bed. It only takes a second to set up and a second to fall back. Let's talk about the water pump in your van. The water pump is essential every single time you want to use water in the van, whether it's from the sink or the shower or the flip down shower or the outside shower, depending on what you have in your van. Any faucet that you want to turn on needs the water pump to be on. If you open the sink, for example, without turning the water pump, you will have very little to no pressure. Make sure you turn on the pump. I know on the video it is pretty hard for you to hear it, but you can hear the pump, and the pump will stop automatically as soon as the lines are pressurized. Now, you have water in the line. As a rule of thumb, it is always important to turn off the water pump when you're not using it. If you need to use water from a sink or the shower, turn the water pump on. But before you start driving, turn it off. The reason behind this is that if your lines are always pressurized, if a leak happens, and it does happen sometimes, especially when you're driving, if the lines are pressurized, the leak will be very important. If the lines are not pressurized because the water pump is not on, it will simply be a drip. A tip that is important to remember, if you are not using any faucet, so you're not actively using water, and you hear the pump turning on automatically, even if it's just for a second or half a second every few seconds, every few minutes, or every half an hour, it means that the pump needs to repressurize the lines, meaning that somewhere is a leak, and you need to do a full check of your van and your plumbing to try to figure out where the leak is. The pump is not supposed to make any noise if it's not trying to pressurize the line. So if you're not using a faucet, or if you're not turning it on after you've used the faucet for a few seconds. When you press the water pump button, it will turn in blue. And it is not possible to remove this blue for security reasons. You need to know when the water pump is not or is on, because as a rule of thumb, it is always important to leave the water pump off, meaning that this blue light will always be on if the button is on. There is a water filter under your sink. This water filter needs to be changed around every 6 months. When you need to change it, make sure that the water pump is off so that the lines are not pressurized. Empty the lines by opening the faucet of your sink without the pump on until you see very little pressure. When you have very little pressure, you can simply go grab under the sink, grab the filter itself, turn it towards the left, and grab it. When you have it, just order a new one online. You have multiple types depending on the type of filter that you want, and simply put it back whenever you want to use it. Again, up, slide it, screw it towards the right. Now let's talk about the light switches inside your van. You can have multiple types of light switch, but know that all of them are dimmable. The way it works is like this. You can turn it on or off, but when the light is on, simply stay pressed on it to dim the light down. Stay pressed again to dim the light back up. Now, if one of your light switch is blue and it bothers you, there is a way to turn off the blue light. When this light is off, when it's not on, stay pressed on it when it's blue and the blue will disappear. The light switch will still work, but the blue light will not turn on. Now for your ceiling fan. Exactly like for your air conditioner, you can either use it using the remote that you have been given or directly on the cover that you have on the ceiling. The system is easy as well. It's pretty self-explanatory. You have a blind that's built in that you can open and close. You can turn on the ceiling directly. It will automatically turn on the gasket on top, but you can manually open it or close it using this little button if you want to. You have the lamp button. You can turn on or turn off the light on it. You can make it go faster or slower, and the most important part is the in and out. You can either decide to suck the air out or blow the air in. So click on the button, it will stop and start rotating the other way. Another thing that is really important to know is that on the remote, if the red lights bother you during the night, for example, if your fan is on, take the remote, take the light bulb button, stay pressed on it for 3 seconds, and the light will automatically turn off. Depending on the layout of the van, you may or may not have a lagoon table system. But if you do, here is how it works. You have multiple levers on the lagoon system, meaning that you can adjust the height, the swing, or the pivot on top. I removed here to show you the tabletop system to show you how the system works, but it's the same for every lever on the lagoon table. So let's say that you want to adjust the height of the lagoon table. You need to make sure it's untight, and then you can adjust the height going up and down. Now when you found the correct height and you want to secure the table, you need to use the lever on the side. But the way it works is that if you're trying to screw it as much as possible, you're gonna hit the cabinet. So the way it works, you press on the button, pull it towards you so you can raise the lever again, and from there you can tighten it even more. And now it's fully secured, it's not gonna go up and down. If you want to undo it, you do exactly the same thing. You can undo it here, but you're gonna hit the cabinet of the cushion here. So press the button, pull on it, up, and you can do it again. Now that the system is untied, you can actually remove the entire bowl. Let's look at another angle. When you're stuck with the lever, press on the button, pull on the latch, then you can rotate more on the right or the left and keep using the lever. Same thing the other way around. Press the button and unlatch. I am sorry about the mess and the noise, but I had to go in an unfinished van to show you something else about the lagoon table. We've talked about how the lagoon table system works, but depending on the model that you have, the top can be flipped vertically and horizontally. One thing that you need to be careful of is the way you flip it back horizontally. When you change it from horizontal to vertical, instead of simply pulling off the top, which is gonna be pulling on the arm and pulling on the screws, make sure that you hold the main arm with one arm while you pull the tabletop before you flip it. Once the table is flipped, make sure that you secure it with the little lever right there and screw it back up. When you want to open it, like turn it vertically, it's exactly the same thing. Make sure that you undo the little hook, push the table toward you while holding the main arm, and then flip it. If you are like me and do not like to use the air conditioning system in your van, especially when you're sleeping because of the noise or because of the dryness of the air, we usually install a little bedwall fan that's by the bed area, meaning that you can go and sleep at night with an airflow on you. It goes attached to this connected to this little remote that we give you that you can put anywhere in your van, and it comes with a dedicated DC outlet to keep it charged all night, because it's a wall mounted fan and you can put it in or remove it. The way it works, you can either turn on the light on it, you have 3 different brightness, you can turn on the fan, and you can make it oscillate if you want to during the night. Personally, this is a feature that I really like because I used it this summer a lot more than I actually used the air conditioning system in the van, but this is a personal preference. If you did not specifically ask me to remove the iPad holding system in the under cabinets of the passenger side, your van will come with an iPad holder. And when I say iPad holder, I mean a tablet holder. That's under the upper cabinet on the passenger side that you can simply unfold right there to watch a movie at night. It is also possible to completely remove it and use it as a tripod somewhere else in your van. Now for your air conditioning system. You have a 48 volt air conditioning system, meaning that it will work on the batteries of your van. The length of time it will work depends on how much battery you got in your conversion. But as a rule of thumb, if you have a 10 kilowatt battery system, you can run it for between 8 to 10 hours on max. The way to use it is by either using the remote or simply directly on the panel on the ceiling. The way it works is pretty self-explanatory. You can turn it on and off, change the temperature, put it in eco mode, or change how powerful you want it to run out. Remember that you can change the direction of the vent, but the one thing that is important to check if it's working is to look at how much it draws from the touchscreen monitor. Let's have a look. So again, let's go back to your electric touchscreen. So the air conditioning system is gonna be an output. So click on output, 48 volt, because your air conditioning system is 48 volt. And here you can see that the AC is currently drawing between 600 and 900 watt, meaning that it is working. If the AC was only drawing like 100 watt, it means that the compressor didn't turn on and you're only using it as a fan, but not an air conditioning system. Now for your fridge. Your fridge is connected to DC power, so 12 volt. It is always on if the DC power of your van is on. Meaning that if one day you shut off your van because you want to save some power, make sure that nothing is in the fridge because it will turn off the fridge. The way it works, you open your fridge. The lower section is the fridge section. You have a middle part, and the top section is the freezer section. If you want to change the temperature of your van, use the little knob that is inside the freezer of the fridge. Now let's talk about toilets. Depending on your conversion and the toilet that you chose, the toilet that you will have in your van is different. So Let's have a little overview of the different toilets, but if you want to know specifically how to use the toilet in your van, please refer to the specific video of your toilet module. The one that usually comes in the van, whether it's in the shower or inside a bench, is the Trellino module. The Trellino module is not on battery, it is not electric. You simply have to make sure that you set it up, so you put the bag and you set up the urine tube, and make sure that it is fully closed when you use it in the shower. But the system is watertight, you can sit on it and you can use it inside the shower. The other one is the Rapon toilet. This one is on battery, so you need to make sure that once in a while you remember to recharge the battery bank to make sure it works. The battery bank on this one is right here. This model also works in the shower. It can be wet if the top is closed. The one thing that is not waterproof and that you need to pay attention to is the remote to flush that is attached with Velcro under it. So before you take a shower and you make the toilet wet, make sure that you take the remote and you securely hide it under the toilet where you have the Velcro. Another option is the Laveo dry flush toilet. This one is either hardwired or on battery as well. It can be removed, but it's a lot heavier and harder to remove. So most of the time people leave it in place in the shower. You can also use it when you shower, but the top here is not completely watertight, meaning that you need to get a waterproof cover to cover it every single time you use it inside the shower. Now, if you want more details, please head to our specific videos. Next will be how do you open your windows. Most of them work the same way inside your van. So let's take the one in the sliding door, for example. If you want to open the window, make sure that you open this little latch button right there. You can either open the window leaving the box screen closed, or open the window and the box screen if you want. When you close everything back, just make sure that you secure the window with the latch again to make sure that nobody can open it from the back. Your bunk window opens slightly differently, meaning that it is possible to open the window, but you cannot slide the box screen open. Simply pull on the little latch here and open the window, the bunk window, and if you want to close it, make sure that you close it all the way and it will be secured automatically. You will not be able to open it from the outside. Now let's talk about your electrical system, because this is one of the most essential parts of your van. Your touchscreen monitor is divided in multiple sections. On the left, you have the battery level. It will also tell you if the van is recharging or if the van is draining. For example, right now it is recharging, meaning that in 1 day and 18 hours at that speed, the batteries will be fully charged. If the batteries are not recharging, they will show you available time, meaning that with the current use of what you have in your van, in 1 day and 4 hours, the batteries will be dead. Now for the right section of your monitor. The top section will show you the freshwater levels, freshwater and gray water, depending if they're connected to the electrical system. It's not always the case. But at the bottom, you have two squares. One that shows you the input, meaning everything that is recharging your batteries. It can be shore power here if you connect the van to an outlet, the solar panels on the roof, or the alternator if you turn on the engine. The square on the right will show you the output, meaning everything that is using power in your van. And it will show you one line with AC power, 120 volts, and DC power, everything that is 12 or 48 volts. As a rule of thumb, always leave the DC on because it controls 90% of what's in your van, and only turn on the AC circuits when you need to use an outlet, because being on drains power for nothing. Now, if you want to be more specific with the output section, You can click on output, click on the DC circuits or the AC circuits to see specifically what drains power in your van, 12 volt or 48 volt being only your air conditioning system. But with the DC circuits, you could potentially turn them on and off specifically. Let's say that, for example, you don't want Starlink to use power because you do not need to use internet for a while. You can simply turn off the Starlink circuit of your DC monitor. Now let's be a little bit more specific with the electrical system. But again, if you want to really go into advanced settings or a specific problem, please refer to the specific video. Your touchscreen monitor generally will turn on if you touch the screen. If it doesn't work, remember that you have a little power button on the top right corner that you can click on to force the screen to open. Now when you recharge your battery, you can look specifically in the input section. Click on input and see the different ways that your van is recharging. For example, right now the van is not connected to an outlet, so it brings 0 of AC charging, and the van is not on, so it brings 0 of alternator power. But the van is outside and it's partially sunny, so the solar panels are providing 326 watts. When you recharge your van, it is important to make sure that there is an input and that you're not wasting your time. For example, I'm gonna go start the van and you will see that there is an input from the alternator. Now that I have turned on the van, you can see that the input is a lot more important, but you can specifically go into the input section and see that the alternator is providing an input. So you know that your batteries are being recharged by the alternator. Now let's say it's a common issue that I turn on my engine, the batteries is not full, but I am not seeing any alternator input. Well, the main problem 99% of the time is the fuse that tripped on the side of the driver's seat. Let me show you. There is a specific fuse on the side of the seat that connects the alternator to the battery. So if the van is on and the alternator is not providing any power, go on the side of your seat, make sure that the little yellow lever is pushed in, and now your alternator will be recharging the batteries. Now, what if there is no solar input from your solar panels? Well, first, before checking the input, you need to check that the solar panels are actually in direct sun. Make sure that the circuits are on, so go in the input section and verify that the solar input is actually on. The other thing to check is that the solar panels are actually cleaned and not covered by something like snow, for example. Then go in the power hub in your garage and make sure that the solar panel adapters are actually correctly inside the power hub and they didn't move while you were driving. If when you go in the input you see a voltage on the solar panels, it means that they are connected. Showing voltage doesn't mean that you're gonna get wattage. It means that the solar panels are connected. But if you do not get any wattage when the solar panels are in the sun and the batteries is not full, it is possible that the solar panels went bad and needs to be changed. Now, if you do not have any input from the shore power, so when you click here and you see AC charging at 0, but your van is connected to shore power, like it is connected to an outlet. First, check the outlet. It is very possible that the outlet has tripped or is not charging. For that, on the pigtail, you will see a little green light that needs to be on to show that the outlet is actually working. Then you need to make sure that the AC charging port right here is actually on the on position. One final thing to know is that if the batteries are over 98%, they will not accept any input. So if the batteries are almost full, but you do not see any input from the alternator or the solar or the shore power, it is normal. Now let's talk about one of the most important features of your van, the hydronic heating system. It's gonna provide both the hot water and the air of your van. It can work both on furnace, meaning on the fuel tank of your van, or on electric if your van is plugged in to shore power. Let's have a look at it. The most important button is gonna be the one at the bottom left corner. It's the furnace. If you turn that on, it will start the burner and start to warm up your system using the fuel tank of your van. Know that it is very important to have at least 1/4 of a tank of gas in your van so you don't have air going through the lines. Right now the system is cold. I just turned it on. So if you go into the settings and go in the temperature page, you will see that the system is cold. Let's wait for 15 minutes and see what the temperatures are like in 15 minutes when the system is warm. While we wait for the system to warm up, let's have a look at how the settings work. The number that you see here is the thermostat inside your van. So right now inside the van it is 77 degrees. Here you can press on the little plus button here up to change the temperature that you want to set up the van at. So if the temperature that you set up the van at is under the temperature of the van, then automatically the vent will not start blowing because you do not need the heater. Only the water will warm up. If you set up the temperature at the temperature that is above the temperature, the fan will automatically start blowing and the air will be hot when the system warms up. Now that you've waited 15 minutes, the system should be hot, but there is a way to check. So go back to your monitor, go into the settings in the top right corner, go in the temperature page and you see that the system is hot. Now that the system is hot, it means that you both have hot water if you want to use the faucet, or you have hot air if you want to change the setting of the temperature. Right now, for example, I set it up at 82. The current temperature in the van is 78. So here, if you see here, the fan is starting to blow hot air right here. But if I go back and I decide that the setup of the temperature should be 70, currently in the van it's 78, the fan will stop blowing. But that doesn't mean that I will stop having hot water. You still have hot water because the system is hot. Now if you want to shut the system down, you simply click on the same button as the one you use when you turn on the furnace. The other option is to turn on the electric option, but to turn on the system on electric, know that you have to go to the touchscreen monitor, turn on the AC power of your van, allowing the 120 volt. Now that this is on, you can go back to the heater and turn the system on using electric. You will know that the system is actually working on electric because you will start having a huge output. Here you see 1.5 kilowatt of output, meaning that it is very important that you make sure that your van is plugged into an outlet to use it. Right now I'm going to turn it off, otherwise it's going to kill the battery very quickly. This is the basic general use of your hydronic system in the van. Now if you want to go more into details on how to use it, how to troubleshoot it if you have an error code, please check the specific and dedicated video that I have done specifically for the Timberline hydronic system. Now let's talk about basic troubleshooting. Every item is of course different and has different way to be troubleshot, but as a rule of thumb, if something goes wrong, the few things that you need to check. First, if it's an item that is controlled by a remote, make sure that the remote has battery, and if so, that the batteries are not dead. The second thing to look at is the circuit on the touchscreen monitor. So for example, I'm opening the fridge right now and there is no light. So the fridge is clearly not working. Before thinking that the fridge is broken, let's have a look at the circuit. So for this, you go on the touchscreen monitor, you go into the output, The fridge is DC powered, so make sure you're on DC. And you can see here all the circuits. And as you can see, the fridge here is off. Make sure the circuit for the fridge is on. Go back to the main page. Now, if you open the fridge again, the blue light is on, meaning that the fridge is working. Now, if you connect something to an AC outlet in your van, there are two things that you need to know. First, you need to make sure that the AC power of the touchscreen monitor is on. To do that, come on the home screen. The AC power is the top one here that says AC. It is blue, meaning that it is on. Some of the outlets in your van are GFCI outlets, meaning that they have a little fuse inside. The AC power is on, but on the outlet, I do not see the little green light right there, meaning that the fuse inside is tripped. To reset it, simply click on Reset. Oh. Now that the outlet itself has been reset, the little green light is here, and the item, the outlet itself, is gonna be working. It is possible, like at your home, that it's simply the breaker that tripped. To do that, you go in the distribution panel in the back, exactly like before. You look at the specific circuit. Let's say that your microwave doesn't work. Well, it might simply be that the breaker tripped. Another thing to pay attention to is the software update of the EcoFlow. It's like your phone or your computer. If you're one update behind, everything will probably be fine. But if you're 2, 3, 4 firmware updates behind, there will likely be an issue. And to know if there is a firmware update, simply look on your touchscreen monitor. You have a little bell that's gonna be blinking on top. It will take you to a page that says software update. And it will tell you if yes or no, your system needs to be updated. If none of this works, or if your system keeps glitching but you've made sure that everything is up to date, it is possible that your system needs a full PowerHub reboot. For this, please refer to the specific video that we've made to show you exactly how to reboot the system. This may happen after you do a software update of the system, for example. Now let's say that your faucet, whether it's in the shower or in the sink, doesn't provide any water when you open it. You need to identify the problem. So first, make sure that you push the button and that the water pump is on. Second thing to check is that you have enough water in the freshwater tank. It's not because you have a little bit of water that it's working. Let's say that the van is tilting forward and that the pump has access to the water towards the back of the tank. It is possible that only air is going through the pump. Number 3 is identify if the problem is the water pump or an electrical issue. So for this, make sure that when you press on the water pump button, it turns blue. If it doesn't turn blue, it's most likely an electrical problem. You need to check the fuse, you need to check the circuit with the touchscreen monitor. If the button turns blue and you do not hear the pump, then it is possibly a problem with the pump itself. So again, the circuit works, but the pump doesn't. The pump might have fried, or you simply have the lever under, like the little shut-off valve that is under the sink or for the shower, shut off. Let me show you how to make sure it's open. You have one blue line and one red line. Make sure that they are in the open position. The last problem might be the line not getting pressurized, and that can happen when you dewinterize the van, for example. And for this, you have 2 ways to fix it. Let me show you the first one. One of the first way to help the pump pressurize the line, especially when you dewinterize, is to push water through the line. For this, you can use the CD water port. So imagine that the CD water port is connected to a water source. Of course, I don't have one right here, so I'll just show you with the tip. Fill the CD water port inside your van. Make sure it's connected to a water source. Open it and fill the lines with water. After you have done that, you can try to turn on the water pump, wait for a few seconds, and see if the faucet works. If it still doesn't work, you need to go to the garage in the plumbing section, remove the strainer and fill it with water. To push water through the strainer hole, you need to access it in the plumbing section in your garage. Get to the strainer, remove the filter as well. Fill this with water. If you don't have enough room with a water bottle, fill the strainer with water and keep filling this hole here with water until it overflows. When it overflows, put back the filter, put back the strainer itself, make sure it's really tight so that no air goes through the lines, and now you can go back inside, turn on the water pump, wait for a few seconds, and the water should work because the line have been pressurized. Now, here are a few tips that you need to know when you use your van. The first one is if you need to screw something inside the wall. First, make sure that it's not too close to an outlet, whether it's an AC outlet or a DC outlet or light switch, to make sure that you do not go through one of the wires behind the wall. And as a rule of thumb, never use a screw that goes more than ½ inch in the wall. So depending on what you're screwing, the screw itself can be 3/4, but you need to make sure that no more than ½ inch goes inside the wall. Second tip is to make sure that everything is latched properly. It is very easy to think that something is latched but not actually latched all the way. For example, the door of your fridge, the pocket wall is secured in the floor, a drawer is pushed all the way to be latched with the ball catch. Make sure that everything is latched properly before driving, because it is very easy to break something when something slams open when you're driving. Another important thing in your van is that there will be rattles. A van rattles, but what rattles is usually what you put inside the cabinets or the drawers or the upper cabinets. So I really suggest that you get fabric containers at IKEA or any store like this. Put fabric containers that match the size of the cabinet or the drawer that you have, and everything that goes inside will not rattle too much. Also, remember the importance of winterizing. If you need to winterize, there is a dedicated video for it. But remember that it is very easy and it doesn't take a lot of time for the van outside in freezing temperature to freeze. And if it freezes, it will cause the faucet or something in the line to break and to create a leak that could be a disaster to fix. So remember, if you're leaving your van outside at freezing temperature, take either the time to winterize by blowing the lines or by using antifreeze, or make sure that you leave the heater on even at a lower temperature to make sure that nothing freezes inside. But it does happen quite often and it is very hard to fix. Another problem that I have seen a few times. If the cord for the pigtail to connect the van to an outlet I give you is not long enough and you need to use an extension cord, make sure that the extension cord is big enough. If you connect to a regular 15-20 amp outlet, make sure that the cord is 12 gauge. If you want to connect to a 30 amp outlet, make sure that the cord is 10 gauge. But please make sure that you don't use these tiny little extension cords that you find at home to connect your fan, because your van can really catch on fire. Now remember that this is a moving vehicle, and in like all moving vehicle, even though everything is tight, it is possible with time and with rattles, especially depending on how you drive, to start getting leaks. So it is important once in a while to check everything and to make sure that everything is tightened. This is why it's also important to make sure that you listen to the pump when it's on, to make sure it doesn't turn on its own, because after a while it will happen and you will have to tighten something and to do a little troubleshooting to make sure that the leak is found when it happens. The final thing that it's important to talk about is the fact that when something goes wrong or something doesn't work in the van, 95% of the time it is something that can be troubleshot or is something that can be fixed. If your fan, for example, doesn't work, before thinking that your fan is broken, there is a lot of things that could have happened before. Please check the dedicated video that I made on how to troubleshoot everything, but between the fuses, the circuit, the batteries, there is a lot of things that can be the reason of your issue before thinking that the item is broken. And to conclude this video, I just want to let you know that there is a dedicated video on the EcoFlow and the electrical system that will talk about when you need to turn on and off the entire system. If you, for example, leave your van for a few days or a few months, when you need to do a full shutdown of the system, if so, how to do it, how to restart it, how to deal with the batteries being in safety mode. As soon as you have questions related to electrical, please refer to the technical video I made with the EcoFlow.